What up, raft leaders? Welcome back to my channel. Here we are on the East Bank, looking at morning traffic on the East Bank. It's about what, 7:30 in the morning, and we're looking at what happens on the East Bank at Macdoom. So we just came out of this street onto the East Bank public road, and what we're looking at is Wednesday morning traffic on the East Bank road. It's about 7:30 maybe in the morning, and we're at the village of Macdoom. Right, so this is Houston to the north of us. Houston to the north of us, and as you can see, that's Macdoom. Macdoom to the south of us, what we're just looking at is Gafour's location. Right in this street there is Gafour's, that's Gafour's operations here at Macdoom. And all these workers are going to the Gafour's location at Macdoom. But this is what the morning traffic looks like, and this is why they're building the East Bank Bypass Road, to relieve traffic congestion on the East Bank. Now this is probably not as bad as it could get, because what they normally do, and in fact what they have done, is, if you can see, they're using both northbound and southbound lanes for traffic heading into Georgetown. That is traffic heading north. So of these 4 lanes, 3 of these lanes of traffic are heading north into Georgetown, and 1 lane is heading south out of Georgetown. And that's how they've dealt with the traffic congestion on the East Bank for the past, I don't know, 10 years. For the past 10 years, they've dealt with East Bank traffic, rush hour traffic, by putting police officers on duty and splitting the lanes so that 3 of these 4 lanes are turned into northbound, and only 1 lane is southbound. Now that's dangerous, because of course on this east side you have traffic moving in both directions on the same side of the road, right? So they basically have ignored the divide. So there's this solid concrete divider. You have traffic heading north on both sides of the concrete divider. If you notice, that's what's going on here. You have traffic heading north on both sides of the concrete divider, and 1 lane of traffic heading out. This is the traffic coming towards me at this point is heading out of the city, and the traffic turning towards the south now, traffic coming towards me in this direction heading into Georgetown, and 3 lanes. You can see there are 3 lanes of traffic heading into the city, right? 3 lanes of traffic heading into the city, and 1 lane of traffic heading out of the city. And that's how they've dealt with traffic congestion at rush hour here on the East Bank. Now the East Bank bypass is supposed to relieve the traffic congestion, but as you can tell, traffic is still using the East Bank and not the bypass road. And part of the reason is, of course, because of these connecting roads are not completed. We just came down that connecting road and seen that it's actually hasn't fully connected East Bank with the East Bank bypass road, and that ought to be a priority to relieve some of the traffic, so the traffic heading into, say, east side of Georgetown could in fact use the East Bank bypass. This is Houston. We're now in Houston. We've just left the village of Macdoom. We're heading back towards the city in the village of Houston. I'm just showing you what the traffic congestion looks like here in Houston on a typical weekday morning, today being Wednesday 21st of June. It's the official start of summer 2023. And this is what it looks like in the morning rush hour. It's a snack it breakfast shop. I promised to do a video. My next village is Macdoom. Promised to do a food video where I sample some of these local food stores, food vendors, and compare them to the fast food operations that are springing up all over the country, and analyze the question of what will these new fast food joints coming into Guyana do to the existing food economy, you know, where people make their living selling food from snacks from their food stalls and their snackets and on the sidewalks around the city. It's an interesting question because Singapore has also dealt with the same issue, where there's a large part of the economy is the food providers, and they've built hawker centers where they gather the food vendors together in a kind of food market. We don't yet have hawker centers in Guyana, but you can see some of these food stalls could eventually lose business to the fast food restaurants. Guyana Shore Base, this is another oil and gas company, features heavily on this East Bank zone, industrial zone, part of the oil and gas industry. They provide shore-based facilities for a lot of companies. Yeah, man. This is Houston Secondary School. Houston Secondary School over here. And that is, if I recall, there was a young man who committed suicide in one of these towers, this overpass. They found him hanging by his neck and inside the overpass. I'm not so sure if this is the one where it happened. Houston Village over here, I think. Let's take a look. Alright, this is the overpass at Houston. 18 feet to maximum clearance. And then maybe it's a good place to illustrate the point I was making. 3 lanes of traffic heading out of the city, 1 lane of traffic heading into the city. That's how they dealt with it. So apparently there was a guy who committed suicide, who hung himself in this overpass some time ago. But here's a chance for you to see part of traffic. So you can see there's 3 lanes of traffic heading into the city and 1 lane of traffic heading out of the city. So that's how they've dealt with the morning rush hour traffic here in Georgetown on the East Bank. It's a pretty cloudy morning. Let's see how far I'll do. Right, so there's essentially 3 lanes of traffic heading out of the city, heading into the city, 3 lanes of traffic heading into the city, and 1 lane of traffic heading out. This is the opposite direction. Houston Village, Guyana Shore Base, and of course on this side I think there is the Gaffurs. That's Houston Secondary School. Only. This is the neighborhood of Gaffurs. Shore base, port main entrance, and as I recall down here, Gaffurs had an office down here. I'm not so sure if they're still operating. Let's see. But now Guyana Shore Base. Has their offices here. So what's happened is they've moved Gaffurs to be further away from the shore, Demerara River, so a lot of these oil and gas companies can operate along the shore instead. So that's important to know. So Schlumberger is over here. Morning. Gaffurs never used to go over here.
Yeah, across the window.
So they moved them. So they moved Gaffurs building, and it has now been, that location is now occupied by Schlumberger. Schlumberger is another oil and gas company, an American oil and gas company, similar to Halliburton. They provide backup services, support services to the oil and gas industry. Things like equipment and supplies, machinery, pipes. So this is one of the major support companies. You can probably find them on the New York Stock Exchange. I remember in the 1990s trading stock of Schlumberger on the New York Stock Exchange, buying Schlumberger on the New York Stock Exchange when I was trading on the New York stock market. So they're here now. They're located here at the Demerara River, and Gaffurs Major Center, which used to be here, right? This is where Gaffurs was once located. They've given up their prime real estate to oil and gas companies, Schlumberger, and they're operating their facilities out here, major oil facilities. So if you were wondering the extent, the size and the extent of the oil and gas industry here in Guyana, this is the extent. It's huge, right? It's huge. It's now the largest sector of the economy, but in terms of its contribution to the GDP, right? So, and there are dozens now of international companies operating out of Guyana, some well known like Schlumberger, Noble, and Stena, some of those oil exploration ships that operate the oil exploration ships and so on. So ExxonMobil and Esso and China Offshore Oil Company are the major investors in the oil and gas industry. There are a few minor investors, smaller companies who've purchased the Guyana shore base, their entrance. There's small companies that have purchased concessions and are drilling and exploring for oil. Right, but the major ones are Esso, ExxonMobil, and CNOOC. And then there are all of these companies like Schlumberger that are provide support services. So that's what's happening here, guys. You will not recognize this area, Houston, which is now completely turned over to the oil and gas industry. What used to be Gafur's hardware store is now occupied by Schlumberger. We've been to this neck of the woods we've seen before. On the other side, that's Rahaman's Park and the Garris Park. And on this side, Houston Village. So that's what's up, guys. That's what's happening in this neck of the woods. If you want to see more content like this, like and subscribe. In the comments below, tell me what you think about changes here, developments here on the East Bank, connection to the East Bank Bypass Road here in Georgetown, Guyana. Remember to share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening. Here in Georgetown, Guyana, the fastest growing country in the world. Later!